confusion about ArcadeVGA and refresh rates and the importance of it, I'm going to make another video going into this. On the right here, I have a list of the resolutions that ArcadeVGA supports. So these are fixed resolutions and refresh rates. If you have any games that don't fall within the ranges that you see here, you're not going to be able to run the games at their native resolution and refresh rate. And by the by, the next version of MAME is dropping direct draw support, and the ArcadeVGA driver requires direct draw to get all of these custom modes. So effectively, ArcadeVGA is going to require some fork of MAME and won't work properly with the official MAME anymore after the next version. Whereas GroovyMAME, because they were forward-thinking and actually keeping it up to date, it'll continue to work because GroovyMAME is based on Direct 3D, so it's not going to have any problem there. So not only is GroovyMAME better, but it is going to actually work in the future. Okay, so the point was made, oh well, this thing has all these custom resolutions and refresh rates, and so it covers most of the games. The majority of the games are going to be fine. Well, that's not really true. So let me show you, if I actually look at the games in MAME here, I have this nifty little tool to actually query games by refresh rate. So look what we got here. Basically, it's covering 60 hertz, 58 hertz, 51 hertz, 53 hertz, and 57 hertz, roughly. So it's covering this handful. Okay, so I don't see anything below 57. So let's take a look at this. Every game that runs between 30 hertz and 56.9. Oh, 549 games. So, I mean, actually, what we really want here, though, let's capture the one because it does 51 and it does 50. It has some, yeah, it has a 53 mode. Okay, but so even though it's kind of funny, they have a 53 hertz mode, but Mortal Kombat actually runs at 54.7, so it's not even right. But yeah, ArcadeVGA is a really great product. So let's go from 55. Okay, so 126 games just between 55 and 57, and a lot of these, I mean, really, Bomb Jack Twin. Some of these games are actually heavy hitters that you would want. So you can't really dismiss this. Kung Fu Master. I mean, Load Runner games. Most of the IRIM games, really. Yeah, P47, Raiden. Are you kidding me? Raiden and Raiden 2. The R-Type games, Saint Dragon. These are significant. You can't tell me that this doesn't matter, that all of these games, Vigilante, you can't tell me that none of these games matter. And that's just a small sampling. So we're also going to have problems with the ones that are, say, less than 51 hertz. So, let's bring those up. Let's do the 30 through 50.9. Okay, so 368 games that are between 30 and 50.9. None of these are going to be covered. So basically what you have here is crapola. What about all the ones that are greater than 60 hertz? Because the max refresh rate ArcadeVGA is going to give you a 60. So let's see what those are. So if we do like, I don't know. So 488 games run higher than 60 hertz. Oh yeah, this is really insignificant. So, basically this is just a complete load of crap. It doesn't do 59 either. So, let's see all the ones that are between, 58 and 60. Oh, okay. So we have in between 58 and 59.9, we have 626 games. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, really. The truth is, the majority of games are not covered by ArcadeVGA. They arbitrarily took a handful of things. They said, okay, let's take the Mortal Kombat games. People seem to like those. Let's take a few other ones, and they slapped together around 25 or 30 different custom resolutions. It isn't good enough. It doesn't handle all the scenarios. And now it's not even going to work at all. So it really is a shame that they didn't do a better job with ArcadeVGA. They haven't really done much with it over the years. It's kind of stagnated, and GroovyMAME just keeps getting better. Okay, so we've addressed the issue of it not impacting many games. It impacts thousands of games. So now let's talk about the issue that people have brought up. It's like, oh, well, if I can run at 58 hertz or 60 hertz, if a game runs at 59.1 hertz or something, that's not a big deal. Yeah, actually it is. So I'm going to bring up Samurai Shodown 2 here. And this is a 59.1 hertz game. Okay, so look at those shadows. Oh, I see. That's interesting. That looks really good. I love seeing this irregular flickering. The whole point is there is no middle ground. It's either perfect or it isn't. Things are going to flicker irregularly. Things are going to stutter and not scroll smoothly if you're not running at the exact refresh rate. There is no good enough. 60 hertz being close to 59.1 hertz doesn't help because it's still off. If you're not perfectly synchronized, this stuff isn't going to work right. The bottom line is, the way all these games were programmed, they were meant to run at a specific speed. They're not like new PC games where they can just run at any frame rate and still basically work smoothly. Look at that jittery scrolling in the background. No, you have to run at exactly this refresh rate. If you're not running at 59.18 hertz, it's going to stutter and it's going to look bad. So that's the whole point there. There's no middle ground. It's either perfect and synced or it isn't synced. So once again, people really need to look at this for what it is. I think the reality is most people simply just don't care. Most people don't notice these things. Most people can't see at 60 frames a second. They're fine with choppy, blurry displays. They don't really appreciate any of these things. That might be the truth. Maybe in that regard, ArcadeVGA is fine. But if that's your attitude, why even get a dedicated graphics card for an arcade cabinet? Why not just go, with a straight out of the box, off the shelf configuration and not even bother with any of this? I don't like that reductive argument. You're either going to try to do this right, or you're not going to do it right. That's the bottom line. There's really no middle ground here. And when you factor in that GroovyMAME is better and cheaper, it just doesn't make sense. So hopefully this clears up, why GroovyMAME is so much better than ArcadeVGA. GroovyMAME is not fixed to 20 or 30 custom modes. GroovyMAME will run every game at its exact resolution and refresh rate, assuming you have a CRT that can do that. GroovyMAME isn't going to magically make a standard resolution monitor run at a VGA resolution or something like that, or a medium resolution. But assuming you have the specs for it, it's going to be able to do any game that monitor is capable of. So if you have a standard resolution monitor, GroovyMAME is going to run every single standard resolution game at its exact resolution and refresh rate using Direct3D. And you also have to factor in GroovyMAME has input latency reduction code in there to make things more responsive. It's called frame delay. It requires a really fast CPU, but with a GroovyMAME setup with frame delay and ASIO with a audio latency there, you can effectively get something that looks identical to a real arcade PCB. You can get next frame response, as in if a game has no built-in input lag, if you press a button on your arcade cabinet, you're going to see the response in the next frame of the game. That's basically the same as a real board would be. mean, even though there are many arcade games that don't even have next frame response if you play them on a PCB, like for example Street Fighter 4, the actual PCB has like 3 or 4 frames of input latency, so that's even if you're on real hardware. So it just all depends on the setup. So yes, this is why GroovyMAME is so much better, and why anybody going out of their way enough to buy dedicated hardware for an arcade cabinet and doing all this stuff shouldn't even be considering ArcadeVGA. It's not even on the table. It makes no sense. It's February, late February 2016. Why would anybody limit themselves to a handful of resolutions and refresh rates when a free solution effectively, the software is free. I mean, you're still going to have to pluck down $15 for an old AMD video card, but basically for effectively a free software solution that does it all